I am Dustin Baker. I'm here with Josh Frey. We're talking about the 3-0 Vikings who are winning in commanding fashion. How the hell are you?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, Sunday was a wild ride, and not for any reason that wild rides have existed in Minnesota in the past. It's just we have not seen a game that way, especially at home, in years. Like we were talking about that before we even started. Like this is just completely different from what we usually see out of Vikings football. And it's just really exciting to see Kevin O'Connell's group coming together and playing the way that they are. Because right now, there's the legitimate case that this team can compete for an NFC title this year, if not a Super Bowl title.
It's so absolutely bizarre that we're able to say that with a straight face because 3 weeks ago we were chatting about how this club probably was 7-10, 8-9, and then if they were good, maybe 10-7. And it feels like we've taken a time machine to the 2017 momentum. And then in terms of team balance, all the way back to 2009, because during the 2017 season, Vikings fans, myself included, kept waiting for the bottom to fall out. And it wasn't until I think they beat the Falcons on the road, who were like 7-1 at the time. I was like, all right, this team is good. I just don't feel that way about this team right now because everything is so balanced. And you mentioned Kevin O'Connell. That son of a bitch is the front runner to win Coach of the Year all of a sudden.
Oh, absolutely. I don't even know if there's even another name you'd throw out there at this point. Like Dan Quinn, maybe? I don't know if Jaden Daniels keeps playing the way that he is in Washington. But yeah, it's been just absolutely insane.
Point of order before we jump into Vikings surprising developments. Jaden Daniels ranks second in the NFL per EPA CPOE. That's not among rookies. That's among everybody. Only second to Josh Allen. And I'm here to report. So I picked him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. If he can survive Neighbors and Harrison and the Commanders have a winning record, I think he'll do it. But that guy, if he doesn't get hurt with that tiny frame, God, that guy is going to be really good.
He is absolutely fantastic, and he is exactly what Terry McLaurin needed in that Washington offense. It's really cool to see a guy like Terry, Scary Terry, who has been in that offense for years and kind of just gone under the radar despite being really solid, like putting up 1,000 yards basically every single year. He's basically been the Mike Evans of that Washington offense, where he's just been consistently really good for so long. And it's really cool to see him kind of getting some of the spotlight because his quarterback play is actually good now.
Yeah, and that was a statement win, whether you want to consider it Jaden Daniels' welcome to NFL a moment, or flat out that the Commanders aren't to be taken for granted, especially when the Cowboys are floundering and the Eagles look beatable. I don't think it's beyond comprehension that they could get the wild card or nibble at the Eagles for the NFC East there.
No, yeah. I mean, listen, that NFC East hasn't been a repeat champion of 22 years, something like that. So, I mean, if Washington comes out and win it, that would just be expected at this point with how the things have gone in that division so far over the past decade plus.
Yeah, I would advise pro Commanders folks not to pull up their defensive stats just yet. Those are in the toilet. However, the coach is Dan Quinn, and that means the defense is going to get good. Maybe not gangbusters this year, but it's going to get good at some point because that's what he does. Almost like Kevin O'Connell on offense. You know the quarterback is going to be at least serviceable because you have that human there in the locker room. All right, all things Vikings. Last week we did surprising players. Now I want to do developments on the whole because we have 3 games in the books. The Vikings are suddenly favored to go to the postseason. When we started the season, they had a 28% chance per Vegas odds makers. Now it's 69%. That's what happens when you start off 3-0. And by the way, it's Packer week. And I'm here to tell you right now, this is not a surprising development. But if the Vikings beat the Packers and happen to do so convincingly, oh my goodness, never mind what the NFL media will say. The Vikings community is going to get super excited.
It is going to be absolutely insufferable if the Vikings go into Lambeau Field, especially if Jordan Love comes back this week and the Packers just get the absolute break speed off of them by this Vikings team. Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. I will enjoy every second of the next 10 days if that's what happens.
I also feel really good about it because I said this on a show yesterday. I can't remember if it was this one or Sal Spice's new show. To me, if they lose, I'm going to be like, all right, that happens. I get it.
Yeah.
They're 3-1 now. I will feel just as excited unless they get like clobbered, like 56-0 or something like that. I mean, I would assume if they lose, it's going to be competitive. And because they have built up this goodwill with me, if they lose to the Packers, whether it's Malik Willis, Jordan Love, I'll be like, yep, division game, of course. They won last year, so now they had to drop this one. Are you in a similar boat?
Yeah, I mean, if they, like you said, if as long as they don't come out on Sunday and just absolutely fall flat on their faces against this Green Bay team, I don't see any reason why a loss on the road against one of your biggest rivals in the entire league, the biggest rival in the entire league, I don't really see how a loss there, as long as it's somewhat competitive. I don't think that's going to dampen my hopes at all. At least, I mean, listen, regardless, you're at the top of this division. So there's really a loss at this weekend doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and for the record, I think it would be an injustice to pick against the Vikings right now because of the way all three facets are playing. So I don't think the Vikings are going to lose. I think they're probably going to win by a field goal or so. But in case they don't, I'm not going to be like, well, see, it's starting to crumble. That's not how I feel about these guys at all. All right, all of that said, sir, let's launch into these. I don't think I'll have any counterpoints, but I'll probably have some surprising developments to interweave. What's your first one?
I think I just got to start off with just the fact that this team is blowing out opponents at this point. It's something that we haven't seen at all in the Kevin O'Connell era. It's really not anything we've seen since, like you said, 2017, 2019. This team is just coming out, and the thing that's really standing out to me is just they look so much more prepared than each of the teams that they've faced so far this season. Like New York, they could not stop Minnesota's pass rush for the life of them. Same sort of story with Houston this weekend, except in Houston, they had so many penalties on the offensive side of the ball too, where it's like they're putting CJ Stroud in these absolutely horrible situations all day. Like Laramie Tunsil, I still think he's getting flags thrown at him for illegal formation, false starts, whatever. He's still got the crowd noise ringing in his ears on Wednesday here. Yeah, just the fact that this team's coming out and absolutely dominating opponents. And at the end of the game in Houston, it was like Houston drove down to the red zone and Minnesota didn't roll over and say, oh yeah, we're going to win this game anyway. You can score the touchdown. No, they put their foot down and didn't let them score again. And granted, Davis Mills was playing quarterback at that point, but still, this team is coming out. They want to make statements each and every week, and it's just really exciting to see.
Putting Davis Mills in at quarterback should have been all the more reasons why the Vikings just rolled over and said, F it. Like, go ahead and get your garbage time. That's okay with us. But nah, they were like, we're not doing that. I got to ask you this before we get into more surprising developments. Is it just a big damn coincidence that Kirk Cousins left the Vikings and suddenly they start creaming opponents?
You know, it might be. I don't know. I mean, they were kind of doing it in 2019. Like it wasn't to this level where 2 of the 3 weeks are winning games by 20 plus points. But I mean, that team was still winning games by decent margins at times in 2019. But yeah, I mean, 2022, you look at it, the only other really good year in Minnesota, it was down to the wire every single week. And now first year you bring in Sam Darnold and all of a sudden they're able to blow teams out. I don't know if it's necessarily because Kirk Cousins left, but it's definitely an interesting wrinkle to add into this.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure it out because I don't think that Cousins was like this scourge. And in fact, people think I'm a big Kirk Cousins guy. But I do see enhanced offensive efficiency on third downs in the red zone. And it feels like when the Vikings encounter like these very few ruts in the middle of a game, it was always vintage Cousins offense. All right, you get the ball back, go 3 and out. And you're like,
yep.
When things go bad, it just rains, it pours. But when there are just little hints of adversity for these Vikings, it feels like they respond with a big drive and not, just recoil like a turtle in the shell. And mainly it's the 3 and outs that I feel have been, I'll have to pull up the numbers. That's a good cue for myself because I feel like those have reduced.
Oh, absolutely. I think that was actually going to be another point that I wanted to talk about. So it's
launch
a
into
really
it.
Nice little segue. This third down offense has just been absolutely fantastic. I think they're top 5, they're top 10 in red zone touchdown percentage. That's something that has been kind of the case in Kevin O'Connell's coaching era so far, but they were definitely inconsistent in that regard last season. They didn't before Kirk Cousins era, it definitely was a little bit of an issue. And then they're top 5 in third down percentage as well. So it's just amazing what a consistent running game can do for an offense as well. And it's just another testament to how good Aaron Jones actually is. He's coming into this offense and just, he opens up so many things for Kevin O'Connell to make play calls, and you're not running into a wall on first down every single time. And you have to dial up a 2nd and 9, like, oh, here we go again. I'm going to have to rely on the quarterback to get us out of this mess. But no, it's been really awesome, solid, consistent football. And another guy I want to bring up in this regard is Jalen Nailor. Just the fact that he's been able to essentially hold down the wide receiver 2 role in this offense, doing it without Jordan Addison, without TJ Hawkinson in the mix. Listen, Justin Jefferson is having an absolutely incredible season so far too, on pace for 17 receiving touchdowns. Jalen Nailor's right there with him. He's got 3 touchdown receptions to the first 3 games too, and nobody's giving him any credit for it. I saw the Vikings tweeted out about Justin Jefferson being like it was 6th Viking in history to record touchdowns in the first 3 games or something like that. And then Jalen Nailor did it 10 minutes later. It's just been really cool to see this guy who hasn't really gotten a chance to shine at the NFL level just come out. And it doesn't look like he's trying to force things. Like, it would be very easy, at least in my opinion, to see Jordan Addison. We don't know when he's going to come back. TJ Hawkinson, he's going to be out for a while. This is my chance to shine. I'm going to go out and do absolutely everything to carry this offense. And no, he's just going out there. He knows what he needs to do. He's taking what the defense gives him. Like that I think it was the 4th down conversion on that jet sweep where he didn't go crazy trying to get 10 yards. He just put his nose down and he got what he absolutely needed to get. And then he went down and played safe with the football. Like that's just a smart play that I'm really encouraged to see out of him in his 3rd season. And it's just been really cool to see him blossom in this offense. And it's been a big reason why the Vikings have been able to reliably convert on 3rd downs and in the red zone and everything else.
Yeah, and on his 97-yard touchdown from Jefferson, the Olympian speed blocking job will get him a place in the coaches' hearts and fans' hearts for eternity with that type of effort. 3rd down efficiency, the Vikings rank 3rd on offense, and they rank 10th on defense. It feels like to the eye test those could be flipped, but I verified them. They are correct. And you brought up Aaron Jones. I read his article in the Players Tribune today. I don't know if you saw that. I haven't yet. Yeah, that was the first time I've ever read anything Packers-oriented and felt heartwarmed by it. Like, for real. Usually I see something like that and be like, I'm not reading that. Like the meme that says, yeah, sorry that happened. I'm not reading all that. That's how I usually feel when I see something. But he explained why the Packers are so dear to him. A lot of it had to do with his father's passing. And I encourage everybody, even Vikings fans, to read his Players Tribune. Shout out to the Packers. I can't believe I'm saying that on air. Let's see here. All right, so we talked about Nailor feeds into one of my surprising developments. To me, this is the largest Vikings development through 3 games. It's the roster depth. So, Josh, we should be doing a show right now talking about the 2-1 Vikings who lost by 3 or 7 points because there was no Ivan Pace, Dallas Turner, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. Those guys didn't play. I should be mad that injuries have ravaged this team, but it's so bizarre that it doesn't even matter that those guys were hurt or are hurt. It's like, oh, TJ Hawkinson, when he gets back, sweet. We don't need him right now. We got Johnny Munt converting 3rd down. Most sports teams can't say this. The Vikings sure as shit can't say this until this season. And I've searched my brain high and low for a comparable example. And the only thing I can come up with is the 2018 Boston Celtics when Kyrie Irving was hurt. And somehow we didn't know they were going to be that good then, but Tatum and Brown, they were just coming up. And I swear to God, they pushed the Cavs to the limit, thinking in my heart of hearts, these guys are going to beat the Cavs. And it's the only example I can think of in sports fandom, it's smaller scale for these Vikings because it's only 3 games, where guys are out, Kyrie Irving is out, nobody cares. The team got better.
Yeah, no, it's been absolutely fantastic. Kevin Hill with his interception on Sunday. He's stepping up as a depth linebacker now. I thought he was a guy who was going to be on the roster, but he'll probably cut. And now he's coming up making an impact. Jalen Redmond in his NFL debut, picking up a sack at the end of the game. That was really cool to see. This team is just all of a sudden, it just seems like we've spent the entire offseason talking about how they need to fix their depth at so many different positions, whether it be wide receiver, linebacker, cornerback, safety. Well, safety wasn't one of them, but edge rusher. And they definitely fixed some of those spots, but they didn't go out and emphasize all of them. And they've found guys, whether it be just in their own farm system where they're picking up guys from their own practice squad and bringing them up, or the free agency market, the depth free agency market, where they're looking at overlooked guys and bringing them in and giving them a role, and they're just finding really great success. And I think it's just a testament to the fact that this is kind of just an established coaching staff at this point, and they know what they want to do each and every week. With Kevin O'Connell, Wes Phillips in their third season, Brian Flores in his second season, I feel like they have a really good cohesiveness at this point where they always have a plan. And I think we're seeing the dividends of that.
I was on First and Skull last night with Sal Spice, who's a Friday guest on this show, and she asked me, just kind of a point of order because it's typical fair game, and she's like, give me a thing about the Vikings that can improve, or a player you'd like to see improve. And I'm like, nothing. I don't want to see anything change.
This is perfect.
Yeah, usually at this time, I swear to God, I'm writing an article that's 4 Vikings players who need bounce back performances, 4 Vikings players who need to improve, 3 worst players per PFF. And it feels like I'm just being too nitpicky to even consider writing or doing YouTube shows about that. I mean, I guess you could get really down in the weeds and say, I wish Ed Ingram was a little bit more consistent with pass blocking, but there's nothing to gripe about. It feels like, how I think we've said throughout this last offseason, how the San Francisco 49ers somehow can get away with whiffing on first round draft picks. And we're like, God, what does that feel like? For 3 games, I know how their fan base feels. Trey Lance didn't play there. Who cares? Let's move on. We got Brock Purdy. So in a lesser important example, because we need to see more of this from the Vikings, it's weird how the roster depth has shown up, just fits with these coaches, and we're not I'm looking at Addison. The injury report will come out today, and I really don't care if he's going to play. It'll be awesome if he does, but it won't change my win-loss prediction for Vikings-Packers. I can't believe I'm saying shit like this.
Yeah, no, it's been absolutely fantastic to see all these guys step up. And yeah, it's like you said, Jordan Addison could miss Sunday and the Vikings offense will be fine because Sam Darnold is going to still go out and throw for 230 yards, 3 touchdowns, and just be fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that they beat the Texans the way they did, 34-7, all sides of the ball thriving, because it would feel like lunacy saying this type of stuff on a show if that didn't happen. And that's another surprising development. I guess you talked about it with the decisiveness, is that the Vikings don't need game-winning field goals. They don't need fluky goal line fumbles by Josh Allen to win games. It's just they control the tempo. They scored first in all 3 games, I believe, and they never really looked back outside of a little anxiety against the 49ers because they were the 49ers trying to mount a comeback. All right, I think we got a couple more from you, and I got a couple more. What's your next one?
I'm actually going to switch over to just focusing a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball, because I think one of the big problems that we thought this Vikings team was going to have coming into the season was their pass coverage, and that only was emphasized further when obviously the tragedy with Kyrie Jackson, and then Andrew Booth not making the roster, and then all sorts of stuff going wrong with the secondary throughout the entire offseason. Mekhi Blackmon injury, first day of training camp. Thank you. Yeah. But so far, so good with this pass coverage unit. And it's been just really cool to see. They're 7th in PFF grade in that area. They're just under 73. Andrew Van Ginkel's been just all over the place. Between he had a career year in Miami last year. He's on track to triple some of the numbers that he had in Miami last year between his sacks and even some of the pass coverage numbers between pass and defended, interceptions, everything like that. So he's just been absolutely fantastic and even better than I thought he would be in Brian Flores' defense as a Swiss Army knife. And Harrison Smith, age 35, still playing like an all-pro at this point. He's PFF's 8th highest rated safety coming into week 4. So it's just been really cool to see Cameron Bynum just keeping going where he left off last year. I was a little bit concerned that he might take another step back this season after kind of flourishing last year and taking over the top safety role, but he's been absolutely fantastic too. And even like PFF hates the Vikings cornerbacks right now. Don't get me wrong in terms of their coverage grades, but Shaq Griffin and what's freaking Stephon Gilmore. Jeez, it's a Wednesday morning here. But those guys have both been they've done their jobs and they know what their roles are, and they come in and play just great football. And even at the end of the game this weekend, Jay Ward coming in, getting a QB hit, Theo Jackson making a pass defense in the end zone. Like you said, the depth is just absolutely crazy with some of these positions right now. And it's just culminated in an absolutely fantastic defense that's second in points allowed right now in the NFL.
It's funny. Jalen Redmond, Zach, Jay Ward, QB. I mean, we're just playing the hits. I mean, it's like, we're playing the whole album here, fellas. What was I going to say? I had a point there. Oh yeah. On cornerback CB grades from PFF, I can tell you that usually a part of my routine Monday or Tuesday, whenever they hit, is to go look at grades like, hey, what's Blake Brandel doing? For the cornerbacks, I don't even bother looking because to my eye test, they're doing just fine. Now, about 40% of that is probably the enhanced pass rush, and I'm okay with that. But it doesn't matter to me what the PFF grades are for the cornerbacks are, because they're passing my eye test, and if they happen to say something shitty, I'm like, all right, well, screw you. It doesn't matter. The defense ranks first in the NFL per DVOA. And so it's really cool to be at a point where, although we know we don't have young or shutdown corners, it just kind of works. And I think a lot of that has to do with the emergency Gilmore signing, which was cool because we asked for that guy since like May, and they obliged in August.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I don't even care about PFF grades right now. Like the Vikings are giving up, they're giving up a ton of passing yards still, but it doesn't even seem like it because most of that's just been in garbage time at this point.
Yeah, and the turnovers, if they continue to force those, especially if they're going to have a couple of their own, because Darnold is still the quarterback, they have to keep those up. Otherwise, those passing yards will still start to add up. You touched on my surprising development, but I have to mention this because we've had this show for over 2.5 years, and one of the things we bitch the most about is rushing offense because it ranks in the toilet every season. We had the diminishing version of Dalvin Cook in 2022. Close your ears. He wasn't that good that season, but he had really great moments. Last year was the same amount of inefficiency, believe it or not. And this year, we didn't really believe it when they're like, yeah, we're going to fix it and get Aaron Jones. We're like, oh, the guy who's going to be 30. And then we talked ourselves into it like, all right, he has a chip on his shoulder. He's going to be good. But one of my signature lines on this show is the Vikings offense will never cook until they have an average rushing game. Now they have a rushing game that is, I think, in the top 12 per DVOA, and it makes all the difference in the world. It allows Sam Darnold to feast. If Aaron Jones is getting 6 yards per touch, it changes everything on offense because Jalen Naylor can bust out. It doesn't matter if Addison's out. TJ Hawkinson's out. We don't care. All of this is because Aaron Jones is consistently getting 6 yards every time his fingertips touch the pigskin. It's so wonderful. And then when Ty Chandler comes in, it's like he's just like Robin to Batman. And I was fearful that O'Connell would never figure this out and it would lead to his demise because you were always going to have that one-dimensional offense where you step back and throw it 67% of the time, and that never, ever works unless you're playing Madden.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another big reason why I'm impressed with Aaron Jones is just how much he's opened up the screen game for the Vikings in the passing game, where this has been just non-existent in Kevin O'Connell's offense for the first 2 seasons.
Except for the tight end tries.
Except for the tight end tries, which end up going like 2 yards, and then we call it a day and bomb it downfield to Jefferson and hope for the best. But yeah, no, the running back screen game has been revolutionized with Aaron Jones in this offense. And like you said, it just opens up so many opportunities for everybody else where you're not pressing on 2nd and long, 3rd and long, just hoping to get to that first down marker, just inching and clawing your way to get to that yellow marker each and every time down the field. They're being efficient with it. And that screen game and Aaron Jones in particular has just been absolutely fantastic for him.
In 2019 and 2020, prime Dalvin Cook, a screen game was remarkable. And then the bastard just died. Like, we had to get like, oh, wait, there's the tight end. He's going to get the screen. Oh, yeah, he got 2 yards. At least we're trying. And so now that Jones is back with it efficiently, yes, makes all the difference. All right, I think you got one more. Is that correct?
Yeah, I got one more, and it's like, it's not even really something that we can statistically talk about all that much, but it just feels like luck is on the side of the Minnesota Vikings this year, which seems crazy to say considering everything that they went through this offseason and training camp with the injuries and everything that we've already talked about. But like just this past weekend, the shovel pass from Sam Darnold that ends up incomplete, like 99 times out of 100 last year, that's either a fumble or an interception, and the defense is taking it down the field for a touchdown. But nope, just lands harmlessly on the ground. They call it incomplete. We live to fight another day. And then minutes later, Sam Darnold, he goes down and he's holding his knee. They're helping him off the field. He's going into the medical tent. Like last year, it was the exact same situation with Kirk Cousins last year, where the Vikings are beating the brakes off the Packers. We're feeling awesome. And then all of a sudden, everything's just dead because Kirk Cousins is hurt and out for the year. But no, with Sam Darnold, it's just go to the medical tent. 30 seconds later, he's out back on the field, and we're rolling again. We're feeling awesome again. So that's just another thing. And then Will Reichard coming in and banging a 58-yard field goal. Meanwhile, Kaimi Fairbairn is missing field goals on the other side. Like, is this a Minnesota Vikings football team? It just feels completely different than what we've had over the past couple of years.
Yeah, and Reichard just doing that just for shits and giggles. Like,
yeah,
no
it didn't even
reason.
matter.
Yeah, it was like the perfect opportunity to show the fans, like, all right, this guy can hit from probably 65. And if he would have missed it, would have been like, oh, it's cool. We're still up 31-7. Nobody really hits 58-yarders. But he hit it, and somehow he hit the upright. You should hit the crossbar.
Yeah, right.
And then when Sam Darnold got hurt, it was like, all right. And then he got up, and then he fell back down. It like sat there, and I was like, oh. And I was telling Yannick Eckhart on our Slack channel, I was like, here it is. This is why it was too good to be true. It's going to be the Nick Mullins show. And then Darnold's going to be back already for the Packer game. There was also, I never saw this vantage point because I didn't watch like the full replay, but I think there was a bullshit pass interference call. Like I think either Johnny Munt or Josh Oliver in the end zone got the benefit of the doubt early in the game. On TV, did that look like pass interference?
Kind of. I think I know what you're talking about. I kind of noticed it, but yeah, I mean, it was kind of a 50-50 one there.
Okay.
But again, it's a thing that went in the Vikings' favor.
Or how about when we were having the penalty palooza? I was telling my wife and my son, I was like, well, we're at 2, we're going to get to 3. And I was like, we're not going to stop here. So he kept getting all those penalties in a row. And to your point about all of this luck, just good fortune in general. In that game specifically, it was like, oh, we're going to win this thing. It's just absolute destiny.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just thinking back to last year with all the quarterback troubles, like Kirk Cousins going down for the year, Nick Mullins being on IR for like 6 weeks, Jaron Hall in his first ever start leaving after a good drive with a concussion. Like, what else can go wrong with this game? Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden it's like, yep, we're just cruising. We're living the good life. And we got nothing to worry about. Like, our quarterback's good. He's not getting hurt. He's not throwing stupid passes. This offense is just rolling. They got a good running game with a 30-year-old running back who spent time injured last year and now is being a bell cow back on this offense, and it's just being fantastic. And then a defense that seemed like, especially in the secondary, was going to be much worse this year. Not much worse, but like it didn't seem plausible that this defense was going to be that good in the secondary, and now all of a sudden they're playing above average football. It's just been really cool and just completely different from what we've seen over the past few years.
And this was after a summer of turmoil. There was a stretch with Addison's arrest, Jackson's death, Micaiah Blackman's ACL, meniscus for McCarthy, where there were some fans who were like, this thing is going off the rails. It's going to be one of those 3-14 seasons. And I didn't vehemently disagree based on how everything was going. All right, my final thing, and I have to call this out. It's going to sound like a homer take, but I don't care. Sam Darnold, through these 3 games, who knows what will happen the next 14, he is actually playing like an utterly elite quarterback. I don't care that he has an interception once per game. Like, if Josh Allen can do it, so can Sam Darnold. And, that's cool if Josh Allen does it. But it's not that Sam Darnold is being a game manager. He is right now a noticeable upgrade from Kirk Cousins, at least a 6-year body of work from Cousins. Cousins was incredibly hot against the 49ers and the Packers before he got hurt. And I say it's an upgrade because of the efficiency, the consistency, and the pocket presence. There are about 3 plays per game where I'm like, ooh, Cousins would have got there and got sacked. And so, no, I don't think that Darnold is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins on the whole. But in these 3 games, in this system, Sam Darnold is putting up elite play. He ranks 7th per EPA, CPOE, 1st in touchdown passes. So you would think if the Vikings were 3-0 with Sam Darnold, we'd be saying, hey, we're doing just enough with this guy, and he's only going to get better. But he doesn't just look like Sam Darnold. He looks like the 3rd overall pick from the 2018 draft. Is that too optimistic of a take on this guy?
No, I think that's absolutely spot on. Like it's not even like the Vikings are scheming so good to get guys just absolutely wide open that he's just throwing the ball, play and catch with his wide receiver. He's throwing into tight windows. Like that touchdown to Johnny Munt was not an easy throw on Sunday. And then he's playing absolutely out of his mind. And like you said, I don't necessarily think he's not going to touch like Pete Kirk Cousins, where Kirk Cousins just is a flamethrower or going off for like 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and just seems like he when Kirk Cousins is on, he can be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if Sam Darnold necessarily can replicate that, but I think as long as he keeps doing this throughout the entire season, he's going to end up being much more consistent throughout a 17-game season than Kirk Cousins ever was in Minnesota. And I would personally rather take that than the highs and low roller coaster of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, especially for this 1-year price tag of $10 million. It won't be like that for long, no matter where Darnold ends up. And notably, Bill Belichick, who knows Darnold somewhat well as a division foe, said on the Pat McAfee show that everybody likes this guy except for the Jets. Like it was news to him that Sam Darnold sucked. He said like the Jets were the only team that misjudged him. Go figure. All right, sir. I have the Vikings winning. I think I'm going to go 24-20 over the Packers. I would feel just gross inside if I didn't pick the Vikings based on how well they're playing. So no pressure. What is your prediction?
I think I'm sticking with the Vikings as well. Like the Packers defense scares me a little bit. Just the fact that they forced 3 turnovers in each of their first 3 games. Like the Vikings are, if there was a time where the Vikings all of a sudden go back to making dumb turnovers, this would be the week that it's going to happen. But as I don't see it happening, I think the Vikings are going to go into Lambeau. This would be a pretty classic letdown situation for any other team, but Minnesota going to Green Bay, you have to step on their throats and earn a victory this week to really cement your spot atop the NFC North. And I think they go in and do it. I'm going to pick the Vikings 31-20.
Oh, okay. Wow. So that will be the type of victory. If it's by more than 1 score, that will completely ignite the city of Minneapolis, because there's one thing to beat the Houston Texans, who were horribly represented by fans. Like there was hardly any Texans fans there.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually you have a sea of red if it's the Chiefs, sea of red if it's the 49ers. It's really rare that there's not a significant imprint of the other team's fan base. And I remember, hey, look, there's one Texans fan in our section. Really weird. So it's one thing to beat the Texans by 27. If you can beat the Packers by more than a score and look convincingly, oh man, it's going to. You think this show was exciting? Wait until next week, because then you're going to London where you're unbeatable. The bye, everybody's going to get healthy. My goodness. All right, man. We'll talk to you in 1 week, previewing that very London game, win, lose, or draw against the Packers. All right.
Sounds good, man. Go Vikes.
Skol, baby.